Chosen one, I want to start with something simple. Notice right now, is there a weight somewhere? Not in the room around you, but somewhere inside you. A quiet place that has been holding a question for a long time. Something that felt too big, or maybe too dangerous to ask out loud. Something like this: why haven't I been able to see clearly? Why has the picture always felt just out of reach? You are not imagining that. The gap has been real. But I want to offer you a reframe, not to make your hard seasons sound better than they were, but because this changes everything. God has been protecting you from something, not punishing you, not ignoring you, protecting you. There is a truth about who you are, about what was placed inside you, about what your path has actually been building, that required a very specific kind of readiness before it could be placed in your hands. Released too early, it would have been more weight than you could carry. I know that may sound like wishful thinking. I understand the suspicion. I am not asking you to set aside your discernment. I am asking you to stay with me, because what comes next will either land as the most meaningful thing you have heard in a long time, or you will decide it isn't for you. But your being here is not random. Today, what was held back is being handed forward, truth by truth. And you deserve to know all of it. Before we go further, I need you to stay with me through this entire message, because I am going to show you something today that most people never receive in full. There is a scientific discovery about your brain that connects directly to why spiritual clarity has felt so elusive. There is a truth about your identity that will reframe every hard season you have ever walked through. And there are declarations at the end of this that people have told me changed how they see themselves permanently. You cannot receive the last part without walking through what comes before it. So stay. All of it is for you. Now, let me tell you about something most people never consider. God withholds things, not randomly, not carelessly, but with the precision of someone who understands exactly what a particular truth will cost the person receiving it, and who loves them enough to hold it back until they are able to carry the weight of it. You may have been taught something different. You may have been told that if God loves you, He will tell you everything. That full transparency is the proof of intimacy. That silence means distance. But think about this for a moment. A father who sees his child running towards something dangerous, what does he do? He does not stop to explain the full danger in that moment. He does not pause for a conversation. He moves, he holds, he protects, not because he doubts the child, because he loves them. And sometimes protection looks like a sealed door. Sometimes it looks like silence in a season when you desperately needed one clear word. Sometimes it looks like delay months, maybe years, when all you wanted was a straight answer. You have been in that place. I know you have. The place where you prayed and heard nothing, where you waited and nothing moved, where everyone around you seemed to receive clarity that you could not access, no matter how hard you sought it. And in the middle of that, a question formed, quiet, persistent, unsettling, something like, what am I not being allowed to see? You were not imagining it. The gap was real. But here is the truth that changes everything about it. The gap was not a sign of distance. It was a sign of protection. There is a difference between what is being withheld from you as punishment and what is being held from you as preservation. Punishment removes what you have. Protection holds what is not yet safe to give. And God, the one who formed you before you arrived in this world, who wired you with purpose before you had words to describe it, He has been holding something specific, something true, something that would have broken you if it had arrived before you were ready to receive it whole. Let me show you what I mean through someone whose story you already know. Joseph had a dream. A clear, undeniable, God-given dream about who he was and what he was called to carry. He received that dream as a young man, and then, almost immediately, everything began to collapse. His brothers turned on him. He was thrown into a pit and left. He was sold. He was taken to a foreign country. He was imprisoned for something he did not do. And for years, he lived in conditions that made his dream look not just unlikely, but impossible. But here is what I want you to notice. God did not take the dream away. He protected Joseph from the full weight of what that dream would cost, until Joseph had the character to carry it. The pit formed humility. The prison formed patience. The years of waiting formed a kind of groundedness that cannot be manufactured, only grown. And when the moment finally came, when Joseph stood before Pharaoh and the entire trajectory of his life turned in a single afternoon, he did not stumble. He did not collapse under the pressure. He spoke clearly. He moved with authority. He handled a moment that required a presence only his preparation could have produced. The delay was not a detour from the dream. It was the road. And here is something I want to ask you gently, honestly. Are there things shifting in you right now that you don't quite have words for yet? A quiet certainty that feels different from hope, steadier, less anxious than what you have carried before. A sense that old versions of yourself are starting to feel ill-fitting, like a coat you have been wearing for years that suddenly doesn't belong to you anymore. A reduced need to defend yourself in rooms where you once would have argued to be understood. An increasing sensitivity to what is aligned with who you truly are and what is quietly, persistently draining you. If any of that is true, those are not random signs of spiritual progress. Those are signs of someone whose season is turning. Those are signs of a seed breaking the surface. Because here is the thing about a seed. A seed in the ground doesn't know it's becoming a tree. It only knows darkness and pressure and something cracking open from within. And that cracking, that breaking from the inside out, is not the end. It is the beginning of upward movement. You have been in the ground. You have felt the darkness and the pressure. Something has been breaking open from within you for a long time, but this is only the first truth. What was God actually protecting you from? The answer to that question changes everything about how you see your own mind. And that is where we are going next. Let me tell you something you may not have considered before. What God was protecting you from it was not only the weight of circumstances, it was something more specific than that. It was the risk of a true calling arriving before the false identity wearing it had been stripped away. Think about what that means for a moment. You have worn layers. We all have. There is the layer of who you became to survive the version of yourself you built when being fully who you were felt too costly. There is the comparison layer, who you shaped yourself into in response to watching others receive what you hadn't yet received. There is the contracted version, the one you made small so others would not feel threatened, so you would stay safe, so you would avoid the specific pain of being fully seen and still being dismissed. Those layers formed for a reason. And here is the important part. If the full revelation of who you are had arrived while those layers were still the first thing you looked through, it would have been processed wrong. It would have been filtered through the unworthiness, through the comparison, through the contraction. It would have arrived as a burden instead of a gift. This is what Esther understood, even if she didn't understand it at the time. Esther was in the palace for years before the appointed moment. Hidden in plain sight, present but not yet revealed. And what was happening during those years was not about her becoming more worthy. She was already worthy. What was happening was something else. The moment outside of her was being prepared. The room she was about to walk into was not yet ready for the voice she was about to carry. And when that moment finally arrived, when the door opened and she was positioned to speak what only she could speak, it landed completely differently than it would have landed a year earlier. Sometimes God is not working on you. He is working on the room you are about to walk into. Now, I want to tell you something that connects the spiritual and the scientific in a way that I think is going to surprise you. Because this protection, this deliberate withholding, is not only a spiritual mechanism, it mirrors something that scientists have been documenting about the human brain. And when I understood this, it reframed not just my spiritual experience, But my understanding of why clarity and intuition, that sense of flowing with life, why those things feel so much harder in adulthood than they did in childhood. Research teams at institutions like MIT, Harvard, Princeton, and others have spent decades studying a specific brainwave pattern called gamma. Gamma is the highest frequency brainwave the human brain produces, and what it is linked to is remarkable heightened pattern recognition, deep intuition, accelerated learning, what the ancient world would have called divine insight, and what the modern world calls flow state. Those moments where everything clicks, where the right word arrives at the right time, where your mind is moving clearly, quickly, and without friction. Children have gamma fully active. That is why learning comes so naturally to a child, why creativity is effortless, why a child can absorb a new skill with an ease that most adults can no longer access. Watch a child at play, and you are watching a brain operating with the gamma system fully online. And then something happens. Scientists call it the decline effect. Somewhere between the age of 7 and adulthood, the modern world begins to suppress it, not through one dramatic event, through accumulated pressure. The structure of institutional education, which rewards conformity over creativity, the chronic low-level stress of adult life, the constant noise that trains the brain toward distraction rather than depth, the social dynamics that require you to flatten your sensitivity rather than trust it. Over years, the gamma frequency, the one God designed your brain to carry, gets quieter, and as it gets quieter, so does something else. The clarity, the intuition, the sense of moving through life with a natural intelligence that does not require forcing. Here is what I want you to hear. This is not coincidence. The same world that asked you to shrink, to fit, to conform, to be manageable also, neurologically, suppressed the very brainwave God gave you to stand out. The protection, the stripping, the fog, it was not only spiritual, it was also biological. And the restoration is not only spiritual, either. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying this exact mechanism, the suppression of gamma in adults, and whether it could be restored without medication, without years of intensive practice, without expensive equipment. What his team developed is something called the Genius Song, a 7-minute audio track built on brain entrainment technology. When you listen with headphones, the sound is engineered to guide your brain back toward gamma frequency gently, progressively, without you having to do anything complicated. You sit, you listen, you breathe. That is it. Now let me be clear about something. This is not a miracle. It is not a replacement for the inner work you are doing. It is a tool, a scientific one, that supports the brain in doing what it was always designed to do. You still do the journey. This supports the clarity you carry while you do it. Over 18,000 people have used it. The standard price is $49 less than a single session with a biofeedback therapist, which runs $300 an hour. Home equipment for clinical-grade brain entrainment costs close to $7,000. Dr. Lake's intention was to make this technology accessible to the people who actually need it. For people receiving this message specifically, the price has been set at $39, not on Amazon, not anywhere else. Just through the link in the description and the pinned comment below. And with that comes 4 bonuses: an audio track for children's focus and confidence, the original book that inspired the film, The Secret, a guided visualization across 4 areas of your life, and an infographic of the 5 most important habits for building the life you are stepping into. Plus a full money-back guarantee, no questions asked, no limit on how many times you use it first. I want to be honest with you about one thing. There are fake versions of this circulating websites using the name without the actual entrainment technology embedded. What you receive from those is just ordinary audio. It has no effect. The only way to get the real technology, the full bonuses, and the guarantee is through the link I have placed in the description and the pinned comment of this message. Please don't search for it anywhere else. If this resonates with you, if restoring what God designed your brain to carry feels like something you are called to explore, the link is there. Not pressure, not a deadline, just a door, for whoever feels called to walk through it. Now, back to the truth God has been holding for you. Because what we just talked about, the suppression, the stripping, the mechanism that was one piece, the piece that comes next is the one that most chosen ones never fully receive. Not because it isn't true, but because there is a belief that gets in the way every single time. And we are going to dismantle it now. Let me tell you what the hard seasons actually produced in you. Not what you lost, not what you didn't receive, what was built. Because here is something I have come to believe deeply. Nothing in the formation of a chosen one is wasted. Not one season of confusion, not 1 year of waiting, not one moment of carrying a weight that felt like it had no purpose. Every single thing that felt like a detour was the road. So what did the road build? It built the ability to hold hope without needing someone to confirm it for you. That is not a small thing. Most people cannot do that. Most people require external validation to maintain their sense of direction. They need someone else to see it, to say it, to agree with it, before they will trust it themselves. But you have been in seasons where no one saw, and you kept going. That built something in you that cannot be taught in any other way. It built a capacity to sit with unresolved questions without shutting down. The people who are going to need you, the ones whose lives you are going to walk alongside, they are sitting in unresolved questions right now. They are drowning in them. And because you have learned how to be in that space without collapsing, you will be able to sit with them in it without flinching. That is not a consolation prize for your hard seasons. That is a precision tool. It built a discernment that only comes from having made costly mistakes and survived them. Not theory, not borrowed wisdom. The real thing, the kind that lives in your body, that gives you a signal before your mind has finished processing the data. That early warning system, the one that tells you something is off before you can articulate why that was sharpened in the fire you walked through. It built a compassion that is rooted in having been in the dark. Not the kind of compassion that looks down from a safe place and feels sorry. The kind that sits down next to someone and says, I know what this is, I know it from the inside. That kind of compassion changes people. That kind of compassion is rare. And it built something else. Something harder to name but just as real. A quality of not collapsing. You have been tested. You have been pressed. You have had seasons that would have broken someone who did not carry what you carry. And you did not collapse. You bent. Maybe you were confused. Maybe you were exhausted, but you are still here, and that unshakable quality is not stubbornness. It is proof of what was being built in you the entire time. Now, I want to name something that I think has been standing in the way of you fully receiving this. There is a belief. It formed a long time ago, not through one single dramatic event, but through accumulation, through seasons of being overlooked when you deserved to be seen, through gifts that weren't recognized in rooms that weren't ready for them, through sensitivity that was treated like a liability. And the belief that formed says this quietly, persistently. It says, I am not sure I deserve this. You know the belief I am talking about. Maybe you never said it out loud. Maybe it would feel too vulnerable to admit. But it has been there, operating in the background, stepping in every time something good begins to arrive. It intercepts the blessing before it can fully land. And it says, are you sure this is for you? Are you sure you haven't misread this? Are you sure you are ready? I need you to hear something about that belief. It formed for a reason. When you were in seasons of repeated disappointment, that belief was protective. It kept the ceiling low enough that the fall wouldn't break you. It served its purpose, but you cannot receive truth while wearing the armor you built to survive not receiving it. That belief has to go, not through force, through understanding. It was a protection. You have outgrown the need for it. Because here is who you actually are. You are a seer. You have always been one. Not overly sensitive, not imagining things, not too much. A seer, someone wired to perceive what the people around you were not designed to see. The patterns, the undercurrents, the thing beneath the thing. That is not a flaw to manage. That is an assignment. You are a truth carrier. The reason inauthenticity has always cost you so much, the reason you cannot stay in rooms where something true is being compromised, is not weakness. It is because you carry something that does not coexist with pretense. Something in you is allergic to the false. That is not a sensitivity to overcome. That is a calling to walk in. You are a cycle breaker. The patterns that ended with you, the dynamics you refused to pass forward, the cycles you carried alone so no one after you would have to carry them, that took something profound. That kind of choice costs real energy, and it is invisible to most of the world. And it is one of the most significant things you will ever do, even if no one names it that. You are a light bearer. The rooms that changed when you entered them, not because of anything dramatic you said or did, but simply because you were present, that was not your imagination. You carry something that precedes you into every space, something that does not require announcement, it simply is. And you are a voice. You are going to say things that people in your life have needed to hear for years and no one was saying. You are going to stand in rooms and articulate what those around you feel but cannot find words for. That is not ambition reaching beyond yourself. That is assignment coming into focus. But these, the seer, the truth carrier, the cycle breaker, the light bearer, the voice, they are all expressions of something deeper. There is a root truth beneath all of them. And that truth is the one that snaps everything into place. That is where we are going now. Here is the truth that makes everything else make sense. The weight of a calling determines the length of its preparation. Not the length of your pain, not the delay as evidence of your failure. The depth and the duration of the preparation determined by the weight of what you are being prepared to carry. God does not over-prepare anyone. Let that land for a moment. If your formation has been long, if your wilderness stretched further than you expected, it is not evidence that you were overlooked. It is not proof that something went wrong. It is a direct reflection of how significant what you are being prepared for actually is. You don't train for a sprint the way you train for a marathon. You don't prepare someone to carry a small thing the way you prepare someone to carry something that will outlast them. The length of your preparation is not a measure of how far behind you are. It is a measure of how real what you are being prepared for actually is. I want to be honest with you. I cannot tell you the specific shape of that on your particular path. I can't give you a date or a name. That would be dishonest, and you deserve better than that. What I can tell you, because the pattern is consistent across every wisdom tradition, across every figure in history who carried something significant, is this. The preparation always matches the calling. Go back to Joseph one more time. When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, not as a prisoner, not as a slave, but as the person whose interpretation and strategy would redirect the trajectory of an entire nation, he did not stumble. Think about what was required of him in that single moment. He needed humility deep enough to serve without controlling the outcome. He needed patience formed through years of waiting for people who didn't deserve his service. He needed a quiet authority that doesn't come from confidence alone, only from having been tested and found faithful over and over again. When no one was watching, he needed every single thing the pit and the prison and the years of waiting had built in him. If the calling had arrived before the formation, Joseph would not have been Joseph in that moment. He would have been someone performing strength he hadn't yet grown into. The delay was not cruelty. The delay was precision. And now I want to show you something. Everything we have walked through tonight, it is not three separate ideas. It is one thing. The first truth. God was protecting you from something. Not as punishment, but because a true thing, arriving too early, can break what it was meant to bless. The second truth, what you were being protected from, was the distortion that comes from receiving a calling before the false identity wearing it has been stripped away. And alongside that, the very brainwave God designed your mind to carry, the gamma frequency linked to divine insight and clarity and flow, was being suppressed by a world that benefits from your smallness. Protection and suppression, operating together. The third truth, while you were in the formation, while it felt like waiting, like delay, like being in the dark, you were not being left behind. You were being built. Every season shaped something precise. Every hard year produced a capacity that what you carry now actually requires. And the truth that recontextualizes all three of them is this: it was one process. One coherent, intentional, loving act of preparation. Nothing was accidental. Not the pit, not the stripping, not the suppression, not the long seasons of fog. Every single piece of it was moving in one direction, toward this moment, toward this clarity, toward the person who can now stand in what they were always called to carry without flinching. You are that person. Now, here is how to live from this, not toward it. Stop speaking about your identity as something you are becoming. Start speaking as something you already are, and your actions are learning to match. Not, I hope I will one day become someone who carries light, but, I am a light bearer. I already carry it. My actions are in the process of catching up to what I already am. That distinction is small in words and enormous in practice. One of them keeps the destination always in the future. The other puts you inside it right now. And the truth is, the second one is the accurate one. The calling was placed in you before you were born. You are not working toward it. You are learning to walk in what was always yours. And when a decision is in front of you, when you are trying to discern the aligned path from the path of fear or old habit, ask yourself this: what would the person I actually am do here? Not the contracted version, not the comparison version, the real one. Let the identity lead the decision. Let the truth of who you are set the direction. What has to drop before the rising? One thing: the story that your formation was evidence of failure. That the length of the wilderness means something was wrong with you. That story is not true. It has never been true. And it is done now. Take a breath. Look at what you have just walked through. You came into this with a weight, maybe years of carrying questions that never resolved, seasons that felt purposeless, a gap between who you sensed you were meant to be and who the world had been treating you as. And now you are leaving with something different. Not the absence of questions. Not a promise that the path will be smooth from here, but a different understanding of everything that has already happened, and a different way of standing in what is still unfolding. The seed has broken the surface. That is not a dramatic statement. It is a quiet one. The seed breaking the surface does not feel triumphant. It feels disorienting, like encountering a kind of light you don't quite know yet. If something about this moment feels uncertain to you, good. That is not confusion. That is the first experience of something you have never fully stood in before. Carry this differently than you have carried things before. Not as ambition, not as a goal to reach. As inheritance, as something already yours that you are simply learning to walk in. The protection was real. The preparation was real. And who you are has always been real. And now I want to pray with you. If prayer doesn't feel like your language, I want to invite you to receive this as a declaration over your life. Because what I am about to speak is true about you, regardless of the words we use. So wherever you are right now, just bring your attention inward and let this land. God, Father, Source, whatever name feels most like home, we begin with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for the protection. Thank you for being wise enough to see what we could not see, that the truth we were desperate for, arriving when we asked for it, would have been more than we could hold. Thank you for loving us enough to wait with us in the dark, for not abandoning us in the fog, for staying present in every season that felt like silence, when the silence was actually the sound of something being carefully built. Thank you that the protection was not distance. It was closeness. It was you holding something precious, waiting until the hands reaching for it were ready to hold it well. You see everything this person has carried, every year of confusion, every night of praying and hearing what felt like nothing, every moment of faithfulness in a season when no one was watching, when there was no recognition, no confirmation, no sign that the path was real. You saw the questions they were afraid to ask. You saw the grief they couldn't name. You saw them stay when everything in them wanted to leave. You saw it all, and none of it was invisible to you. Not one moment of it. And now we release what no longer belongs. We release the story that the delay was punishment. Release. We release the false layers, the performance, the comparison, the contraction. We release them. They served their purpose. They are done. Release. We release the need for external confirmation before we move. Release. We release the unworthiness belief, the one that formed in the seasons of being overlooked, the one that kept the ceiling low to protect us from a harder fall. It served its purpose. It is done now. Release. We release every ceiling placed over our calling by someone else's fear or someone else's limitation. Release. We release the grief for the seasons that feel lost, because nothing was actually wasted, it was being used. Release. We release the contracted, small version of self, the one that was necessary for survival and is no longer necessary for what is coming. We open our hands, release, and now we activate. We call forth the seer, the full version. The one who trusts what they perceive, who is no longer apologizing for what they see, who knows that sensitivity is an assignment and not a liability. We call forth the truth carrier, the one who can no longer be kept long in rooms that require them to pretend. The one whose presence changes the temperature of a space because what they carry does not coexist with the false. We call forth the cycle breaker, the one who ended what was not supposed to continue, who carried something alone so those who come after would not have to carry it. That cost was real, and it will ripple forward in ways that will never be fully measured. We call forth the light bearer, the one who walks into spaces and changes them without announcing the arrival, the one who was wired to illuminate what others have been living in without seeing. We call forth the voice, the one who is going to say what needs to be said, who is going to stand in rooms and speak what those around them have felt but could not find words for. The silence is over. The voice is activated. We activate right relationships, the connections that have been in alignment, waiting for this season to open. We release the misaligned, not in bitterness, in clarity. We make room. We open the doors that closed prematurely. The ones that closed not because the calling was wrong, but because the timing was not yet ready. The right ones are opening now. We protect what is rising. We cover what is being built from exposure before it is ready. We guard the forming from voices that will not understand it yet. What has been lifted, let nothing pull it back down. What has been freed, let nothing re-enclose it. What is rising, let it rise all the way. We cover this person from the old pattern of approaching the threshold and stepping back. That ends. The ground has shifted. What is being built now, it stands. Now we declare, I am not who I was in the wilderness. I am not the confusion or the waiting or the seasons where no one saw me clearly. I am a seer. I see what I was designed to see, and I trust it. I am a truth carrier. I carry what cannot coexist with pretense, and I am no longer apologizing for that. I am a cycle breaker. What ended with me, ended, and that is one of the most profound things I will ever do. I am a light bearer. I carry something that precedes me into every room. I don't need to announce it. I simply need to show up. I am a voice. I was given words for this moment, and I will speak them. This is not who I am becoming. This is who I am. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it, and so it is. Amen. If something in this message landed for you today, if even one thing shifted, quietly, somewhere inside, I want to ask one thing of you. Type the word ready in the comments. That's all. Just ready. I want to know who walked through this with me. And when you leave that word, you are not just telling me, you are declaring it over your own life. If the part about what God designed your brain to carry, the gamma frequency, the suppression, the restoration, if that part resonated with you, the link to the Genius song is in the description and the pinned comment below this message. Take your time with it. It will be there when you feel called. And if you know a chosen one who is in a long season right now, someone carrying questions they cannot resolve, someone in a wilderness they cannot see the end of, share this with them. You don't have to explain why. Just send it. Let the message find them the way it found you. What was held back is now yours to walk in. Go carry it well.